single, they've done enough. It's the Eagles. Vitality Blast 2019 Champions.
There's been a lot of talk about Gooch's era, Fletcher's era. Now we've won Division 1, we can say that, you know, we're actually starting to build our own era.
And that is the moment. They have decided to shake hands. And the county championship is on its way back to Chelmsford.
Late wickets put Essex on top. Essex have started the divisional stage with a point to prove. After brushing aside Glamorgan, they then dispatched Gloucestershire for 76 in just a session on day one in Bristol, before doubling that total in their innings, despite some early scares. But Gloucestershire got their second day off to the best start possible. Wheater out for 34, as the Price brothers combined to make the key breakthrough. They'd be unable to build on it though. Simon Harmer the next man in, and he looked in the mood, rattling off early fours to score at almost a run a ball. 200 soon up for Essex. The 7th wicket was worth a breezy 50 or 56. Gloucestershire yet to get to grips with their opponents. Walter was looking for a ton, but was stopped in his tracks. Another wicket for Gloucestershire to enjoy, the number 5 out for 96. Harmer too wasn't able to get to his landmark figure, out for 45, caught by lace off the bowling of Higgins. Gloucestershire were coming back into it. Snater was looking to clear the ropes when he fell to go half for 10. Hammond leaping high in the slips for the catch. Just one more needed for the visitors. But that proved to be easier said than done. The final wicket pair fired their side past 250 and beyond with some enterprising shots. With a 6 off Gohar, Porter took them to 276, the lead now 200 runs. The spinner struck with the next ball, Porter looking for another maximum, but only finding pain. Essex's top order had come unstuck, but Walter had led the recovery. He'd put his side in a really good position heading into the third innings of the match. He was also unfortunate to miss out on a century, but had done a great job for Essex. Harmer too, excellent for his 45. A patient start to the innings from Charlesworth and Hammond was an improvement from their first innings, and for that matter, Essex's start. But Snater made sure they could only get as far as 35, Hammond LBW for 17. Bracey joined Charlesworth, and they made sure that the early wickets wouldn't hand Essex any momentum. There was a bit of fight on show from the pair, even if boundaries proved hard to come by. They remained together when a tight session was brought to a close. The score at tea 73 for 1, and they were trailing by 127. They'd bring up a 50 partnership with a bit of luck when play resumed, but it wasn't long before Harmer got into the wickets. Charlesworth out for 49. Despite the setback in the evening session, Bracey saw Gloucestershire pass 100 runs. He and Dent finding a bit of fluency now. Bracey fought his way to 50, scored off 118 balls, a defiant showing from the number 3. But that would be all he could muster, out without adding to his score, caught by Harmer off Cook. Essex had found a groove and soon had a 4th. Tom Price out caught tamely by Brown. Ollie Price survived a good shout to the next delivery, but the reprieve was brief, run out by a direct hit from Rymel for 1, his wicket, the last action of the day. A tough pill for Gloucestershire to swallow. They finished the day on 132 for 5, still trailing by 69. They've got a job on their hands on day 3, but Essex's bowlers look up for the fight and will hope they've got enough left in the tank to wrap it up without their side needing to bat again.
Well, Paul, end of the second day, Gloucestershire 132 for 5, 68 behind, and the reason Essex are in such a strong position, one of the main reasons, is your fine 96. Just talk us through the game as it's gone so far, and that innings, that excellent innings in these conditions.
Yeah, obviously delighted to get some runs on the board, but I think the credit needs to go to the bowlers really, just how good they were day one morning. Just gave us an opportunity to kind of get ahead and really put the pressure on Gloucester.
That wicket wasn't easy though, was it? I mean, our guys exploited those helpful conditions to the full. I think in 28 or 29 overs they were already bowled out. They couldn't have altered that markedly before we went in, and the top 3 or 4 found difficulty, didn't they?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously a bit of a tough wicket, just nipping around a little bit. I always felt like the bowlers were in the game, but just one of those things. I think once you get in, I think you just really got to capitalise on it, and kind of everyone in lower order really just kind of ground it out. Wheats and Harmy as well, and just managed to get some partnerships on the board.
Was it one of those wickets where your height actually helped contend and negate some of the, if you like, the advantage that the pacemen particularly would get from that? And then of course their spinner came into the attack, didn't he? He was getting a little bit of turn on it.
Yeah, obviously I don't know whether it helps or hurts, who knows, but obviously just glad to help the boys out really, and obviously get us into a strong position and try and push this game home tomorrow.
you're proving yourself, if you like, a coach's dream, really. I mean, you know, you go in, you've opened in the past, you've gone in at 3, going in at 5. What's the position you're most comfortable in, Paul?
Yeah, I think the main thing is for me is just trying to help the team out. So wherever I'm needed, and they feel like I'm the best man for the job, then obviously I'm happy to do it. And I think the main thing is just trying to win games for Essex, really.
Reflections on the season for Paul Walter? You happy with how things have gone for you?
Yeah, I think it's been a decent season. I obviously would have liked to score a few more hundreds. But that's the way. That's cricket. That's the way it goes. So I think the main thing is just trying to win games for the team.
You've scored a few half centuries now. That last innings, the 96, tantalisingly close to those 3 figures. People talk about the nervous 90s. Did that hit you?
I think it was just one of those. Obviously, you never want to get out. So it doesn't matter whether you get out on 95, 96, whatever. It is what it is. Obviously, you're going to walk off disappointed, but it is what it is. In the game situation as it is, it's obviously delighted to get that many.
Yes, I was going to say, in the context of the game, and it's all about putting in performances. They're only really important if it helps the team win, aren't they?
Exactly.
As we stand here now, that really has been a defining contribution, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. For you, Paul, I mean, your style of batting has changed, hasn't it, over the last 2 or 3 years, or maybe longer. Initially, I mean, you were a ferocious hitter of the ball, and I'm not suggesting that's gone. You are still a ferocious hitter of the ball, but you've played some really, really staunch innings, rearguard innings, as that showed out there today. Has it been hard to, if you like, get that discipline into your game?
I think it's been kind of like a natural progression over the years. I think at the end of the day, you just got to try and do what's best for the team. Like if I feel like you need to push the rate up or push the game on, then maybe that's what I'll try and do. But definitely in those sort of situations on that sort of wicket, I think you've got to dig in and grind it out. So I trust my defence, and I think that's kind of where you've got to be able to grind out those sort of innings. So obviously, yeah, delighted, and hopefully many more to come.
And I know there's the feeling throughout the team and around the coaching staff, so disappointed that we haven't been got into Division 1 to defend that title, but we've shown that so much professionalism, aren't we, in these matches in Division 2, and perhaps laying the foundations for that title, to regain our title next season.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I think we're all very disappointed as well not to be in Division 1, but that's just sometimes cricket. So yeah, I think all we can do really is just put our hands up in Div 2, make sure we finish up the top there, and look forward to bigger and better things next year.
Very good morning, everyone, and the players are resuming the field, and umpires just arranging the bails on top of the stumps, which the ground staff have dutifully put in. So we'll be underway in about a minute and a half's time. Sam Cook is going to complete the over. Rather sensational finish last night, where there was it wasn't actually the last ball of the day as intended, but during the last over we had a direct hit on the stumps which ran out the second night watchman, Ollie Price, and correct a mistake I made. I thought it was Porter at the time with the throw. It was in fact Josh Rymel, who was immediately surrounded by delighted colleagues. So I'm Paul Newton, Ed Seaborn is with me, and very good morning, Ed, if you'd like to describe the remains of this over.
Thanks very much indeed. Doesn't sound great, I have to say. It's Cook is in and bowls a good length ball, and Tom Lace is defending on the front foot. And as we resume things, just 2 balls remained in this over, and Tom Lace out at number 7, which I'm not sure that he would have necessarily been imagining he would come in that position, as that's well outside off stump, and Lace leaves it alone as it goes through to Wheater, and that ends the first completion of an over from last night, with no addition to the score. Chris Dent has 9 from 56 deliveries, and he did very well to see out the period towards the end of the day yesterday. It was vital that he stayed there at the end of the day, so if anyone was going to be getting run out, then it couldn't be him. But at the same time, as you say, it was a moment of tragedy for poor Ollie Price. There was a 2 there, I think, if they'd gone immediately, but there was a bit of hesitation over the first run, and eventually they'd kind of taken that second run, hoping against hope that it wasn't a direct hit, and of course it was. So a really tricky moment for Ollie Price there. Tom Price out there against Simon Harmer was always going to be a test, and just gloved one to leg slip. So 2 night watchmen means that Lace is out at 7, Van Buren will come in next, Ryan Higgins after him, Zafar Gohar and David Payne. Those are the remaining batsmen for Gloucestershire.
So Simon Harmer, surprise, surprise, is going to bowl the first over of the day from the river end, first full over. And this ball is just edged away down towards third man. 2 runs, I think, are going to be taken here as Cook runs after the ball to retrieve just what you want when you've bowled a few deliveries, and the score goes along to 134 for 5, 66 more needed to make Essex bat again.
Not too much of a surprise to see Simon Harmer starting things off here.
And this ball, thickish inside edge, but safely played into the onside. No run there, 134 for 5, with Dent on strike with a slip, silly point, and a forward short leg. Oh, that keeps low. Didn't trouble the batsman, Dent ever watchful, and played up to Nick Brown doing the silly point duties. Umpire at this river end is Neil Bainton, Essex umpire, not biased, as this next ball is played into the shin pads of Brown, having gone along the ground. Dent playing to Brown, who's virtually standing next to him. We were saying yesterday that the distancing rules might not be being complied with. So close are these close fielders here, distancing in terms of COVID, as this next ball is turned to backward square leg. There's no run there, and Harmer is rattling through this over as he does, and should be going into the 11 o'clock. Oh no, we shouldn't. Of course, with 10:30 start. I've just woken up. Here is Harmer in, and he doesn't bowl. So it's all happening here as he decides he wants to just get a bit of dirt on his hand again and get a better grip of the ball. As now he does bowl, nicely flighted, and played straight up to silly point by Nick Brown. So 2 runs off that over, 134 for 5, 62 overs into the innings, new ball due in 18, and certainly that over comfortably played by Chris Dent.
I spoke to James Bracey last night, and his view, perhaps it was more actually the thinking going into yesterday, but he said, and he put a number on it, 130 to 150, if Gloucestershire could just get those number of runs, he felt that on a pitch which would be, heading towards a day 4 pitch, that Zafar would give them a chance to maybe spin them to victory, with Essex chasing a albeit quite low total. As in goes Sam Cook and bowls, and forward goes Tom Lace, and defence picked up by the bowler just to the left-hand side in his follow-through.
Yes, just to sort of sum up, therefore, of what you were saying, Bracey told you last night, the thinking for Gloucestershire will be if they can add another 200, and they have got top order batsmen to come, because 2 of the 5 men out are night watchmen, then this could yet be a game, and it might even go into a 4th day.
Here's Cook. He's there, and he bowls, and Lace forward defending, picked up by Cook once more in the follow through, and when you look at the batting that is to come and the batting that's out there, most of the county circuit knows what Chris Dent is capable of batting for huge periods of time. Hasn't done it yet this season, but it's something that does tend to happen at least once a season, where he bats for a massive length of time. As here goes Sam Cook, and he bowls, that's edged and caught, so Tom Lace goes for a duck. Simon Harmer takes the catch at second slip, and all talk of Gloucestershire surviving for long periods of time and making Essex bat again and bat in tricky circumstances. Well, that's all got much more difficult now, because Tom Lace was somebody who Gloucestershire were definitely going to be relying on to do that, because he scored some big runs this season in really the trickiest of circumstances. His 2 biggest scores have come when Gloucestershire were chasing, albeit one in particular was a target which you'd felt they could chase, notably last week at Northlands, but the runs that he made against Leicestershire, he had to bat time for a session and then move through the gears. So his 2 of his 3 big scores, when you add in the Hampshire game, which he almost managed to save for Gloucestershire, came in situations where they needed rearguard action. So the long-winded point I was trying to make was Tom Lace was very, very necessary to Gloucestershire's hopes in this match, and just a bit of a loose drive to a ball outside off stump, not a half volley, and a nick and a comfortable catch for Simon Harmer at second slip, and Lace goes without scoring.
So Graham Van Buren makes his way to the middle. I wouldn't say the delivery from Cook did all that much. It might just have sort of right arm over to right hand batsman, just held its line after pitching, and he played too much inside it. It just clipped the edge, and he just not got far enough across. And well, you've always got to hope early in the morning normally that second slip will manage to drop a catch, but in Simon Harmer's case there is no chance of him dropping anything as simple as that, because he took a blinder to get rid of James Bracey last night, going like a rocket and by his right ear when he caught it, but this one wasn't going very fast and straight into his cold scuttle hands, and I'm afraid Lace had no chance of survival.
So here is Van Buren on strike to Cook, and he leaves the ball alone outside the off stump, not too dissimilar actually to the ball that I think Lace nicked off to. Just a bit of a tempting line, not a line that you have to play at, but just a batsman trying to get off the mark, trying to, I guess, impose himself a little bit on Cook, because I think it's whilst I'm going back to the James Bracey interview last night, he very much confirmed what I had thought, really, in that it's a pitch which you never necessarily feel completely in on. As Cook bowls to Van Buren, who's forward in defence out towards the covers, will be picked up by Nick Brown, but because of that, I think it's important not just to let the bowlers completely bowl to you, and again, Bracey outlining the importance of, and something that he did very well in his half century, rotation of the strike. Even if it's not whacking the ball to all parts, you've still got to make sure that the bowlers aren't just completely settling into everything that they want to do. Cook bowls, Van Buren drives pleasantly, but it'll be picked up at mid-off, and that ends a wicket maiden over from Sam Cook. 50 overs, I think that'll take up to 4 maidens, 2 for 25.
Yeah,
figures.
Your point there about keeping the scoreboard ticking over is such an important one, and I do think in the regrettable demise of England in the Test match yesterday, that opening partnership, I mean, it's so rare for England to have anything of an opening partnership, so I take the point, you've got to give credit for 100 for no wicket, but they were going so slowly that any real hope of getting on the front foot and going for the target was already lost by the time the partnership was broken. Harmer's in to begin a new over from the river end, and that one is left by Chris Dent, and as was the case yesterday evening, his judgment is fine, but he knows what he's doing there until such times he leaves one of his bowls. But that may not happen. Let's give Chris Dent credit. He's one of the most obdurate batsmen on the circuit, and has been doing it for a long time, as here he drives the ball out to Snater in the covers. There's no run, 134 for 6. Tom Lace the man to go, the new batsman this morning, and almost immediately caught at second slip by the current bowler Simon Harmer for a duck. And here driven down to mid-off, but although mid-off is deep, Tom Wesley, no chance of squeezing a run in there. The score remains at 134 for 6. We have got a lovely morning, whereas yesterday there was always some sort of high cloud. Today it's clear, lovely azure blue above, and Harmer's in again. Bowles defended to mid-on, there's no run there, and one of the qualities of Simon Harmer, he's at you so quickly. You see off one ball, with a quicker bowler at least you can have a bit of a breather and stretch your legs a bit, but he's right back there to bowl the next one before you know it. And here he is now, bowls to Dent, plays it up to Nick Brown, under the batsman's nose at Silly Point, and just one ball left of this over already, and it's probably only taken about a minute and a half so far, and just under 2 minutes by the time it's finished, as he passes Neil Bainton from the river end and bowls. And a good lead. There was a bit of turn there, but it started well outside off stump, ball moving away from the left-hander. Maiden over. It didn't really pose any great problem for Chris Dent, who's very accomplished. He remains on 11 and 66 short of making Essex bat again. Gloucester 134 for 6.
The other thing that James Bracey said last night was that in terms of facing Simon Harmer, it's something that is just all about, and I know it's one of those buzzwords that makes people roll their eyes, but mindset.
Yes,
it's all about the mindset, because you've got to go in with the mindset of, this is a real challenge, this is as tough as it gets in county cricket, and I'm going to enjoy this challenge. Here goes Sam Cook. He bowls now to Van Buren. That one comes back towards him and out given LBW. It looked as though that one nipped back towards Van Buren from maybe just outside off stump, clattered his pad, and it always looked like that was danger time. Tom Lungley didn't have to think too long about that. Second wicket of the morning, and Graham Van Buren, the latest Gloucestershire batsman to depart without scoring. It's 134 for 7.
Well, that is a big blow for Gloucestershire there. Van Buren coming in at number 8, but of course normally would come in a lot sooner than that, and departing immediately. It was a good Yorkerish length ball. I won't liken it directly to a couple we saw from Jasprit Bumrah yesterday, which looked absolutely unplayable, because he's so quick and so deadly and so good at the Yorker. This was just shy of Yorker length, but Van Buren had sort of shuffled across the stumps. If there was any doubt about it at all, it was an off-cutter, and if someone said, well, we've actually had a look now at the ball tracker, and I can tell you it wasn't actually hitting the stumps, well, it would have just gone down leg side, but I fancy it would have knocked middle and leg out of the ground, basically. I don't think anyone would have any huge complaints about that. It wasn't going to bounce over the top, that's for sure.
No, that's the one thing we can definitely say.
So there we are, I'm afraid. It was a case of Cook finding a very good ball to a batsman just finding his way, and never going to be easy. And the other point to make is the quicker bowlers really had a spell of 2 or 3 hours yesterday in the final 2 sessions where they didn't look like taking a wicket. But it's a different story on on an early morning at Chelmsford, and bear in mind this is a 10:30 start. The ball does things at this stage of a day that it won't do after lunch if Gloucestershire can only get that far.
Exactly, early morning movement as Cook now bowls to Ryan Higgins, who's the new batsman, and that's dabbed away out towards backward point. I suspect Ryan Higgins has probably never come in at number 9 in his professional career, actually. I mean, perhaps in a T20 he may have occasionally dropped down, but I don't imagine even at the start of his career when he was with Middlesex, where he was seen a little bit less as the explosive lower order hitter that he is now. I doubt he would have come in that low. So, pretty much the last vestiges of hope here with Higgins, as that's the back of a length ball and Higgins plays it down into the ground. It'll be picked up at mid-on. Zafar Gohar can bat. He's got ability with the bat, does have a century in first-class cricket, and made a couple of handy 30 odds in his only test appearance for Pakistan against New Zealand.
The night watchman policy could not have gone worse for Gloucestershire than in this game. They lost both night watchmen last night, and both the batsmen they were protecting are out anyway first thing the next morning.
Yep, exactly. Cook now bowls left alone by Higgins. Good carry through to Wheater off a full length. Well, again, Wheater's not the tallest, but not just the fact that Wheater was taking it around about shoulder height, it was the speed that it got through to him, and that's what did for Van Buren as well. It wasn't just the fact that it was moving, it was quick movement off a full length, and he just, with that only being his 4th ball, it just didn't have the feet going enough to make the adjustment to stop it striking him on the pad. Cook bowls another LBW strangled shout, but that one looked quite high.
I think actually he must have got a bit of an edge into that, because he was in front of the stumps, and I'm not saying that it would necessarily have hit them or that the batsman would have been given out, but everybody appeals their head off, and for me the only reason he started to appeal Sam Cook and immediately abandoned it, I think it clearly must have taken a bit of a flick into the pads, but again he's causing all sorts of problems. He's a real craftsman of a bowler. He doesn't give much away, and he's always at you. Again, he's the sort of quicker bowling equivalent of Harmer, just relentless.
Cook bowls, Higgins dabs away, trying to find runs down to that third man region, but it's picked up a backward point by Michael Pepper, and that is the end of another wicket maiden from Sam Cook. Back-to-back wicket maidens for him, 16 overs, 5 maidens, 3 for 25. Gloucestershire 134 for 7. They still trail by 66 runs, and he's the kind of bowler, Cook, that you pretty much ask him to do anything with the ball, he can do it. So if there's anything out there for him...
Well, you see those figures you've given, 1.5 an over, which is just what Harmer was overnight, 25 overs for 37. So he is, in many ways, the cricket bowling equivalent of Harmer. Oh, and that's bold! Chris Dent, I'm afraid his judgment of that one was awry. I'm afraid it's all coming apart dramatically for Gloucestershire this morning. 2 runs added, 3 wickets down, 134 for 8, and Dent, whose judgment previously had been excellent, but the problem that Harmer has caused to the left-handers is the one that he pitches on leg stump, and then it's going to move away from the left-hand batsman, so it's sort of eventually going to end up hitting off stump, and whereas the one that he's been leaving, starting on off stump, his judgment has been sound, that one he's just left a ball that was arrowing into a off stump, and he's gone. He won't need any telling. It's a classic. For those of you who listen to football programmes, it's a Chris Sutton like, you're better than that, because he's such a fine batsman. But that, I'm afraid, was an aberration. Bowled for 11 without playing a shot.
Yeah, I'm afraid that was a real misjudgment as they go, because for me it still looked like it wasn't kind of the arm ball, say, that Harmer started just outside off stump and then it angles in towards that off stump. I think it looked as if Dent was thinking that it would turn substantially away from him. Well, I'm sure he was, otherwise wouldn't have left it, but I think in the end that's bowled him more like middle and off rather than off stump, because I think just judging by the angle that the stumps were splayed, I think it was more middle and off than off stump. So yes, now I'm afraid we really are into pretty much last rights territory now.
It's one of those where you almost couldn't believe what you were seeing, to see Dent just leave that. So we're down to another left-hander. Who's that?
It's Zappa Gohar.
Zappa Gohar, and with a slip, silly point, forward short leg, and Paul Walter is now being posted out to deep square leg, as though Essex know that Gohar rather favours the sweep. And
we was out top edging a sweep in the first innings.
Right, yeah, I wasn't here on day one. Yeah, so they've not needed to do their homework because it's unravelled it before their very eyes. It's 134 for 8, and we're only in the fourth over of the day, or fourth completed over, as Harmer bowls and Gohar knocks it back to the bowler. And Essex themselves could hardly have believed they'd make the start they have. 2 wickets for Cook, 1 for this man, Simon Harmer. Bowls to Gohar. Plays it well. Spinners often play, I know different types of spinner, but even so, he's getting well forward, which for me has to be the right policy. If you let Harmer bounce the ball right under your nose on the back foot, you are asking for trouble. So if Gohar sticks to this modus operandi, he'd probably be the better off for it. And he comes down, he hammers the next ball down the ground. It's very well stopped at mid-on on the dive by Jamie Porter, and they get the single. 135 for 8, but that was all but 4 runs there. The fieldsman just getting a hand down, and you have to say that you're going to perish anyway if you just block Harmer all day long.
Exactly.
So I applaud Gohar for having the guts to come forward and play an attacking shot. Not that Harmer ever minds people going after him, but I think it's a move in the right direction.
Yeah, for me, I've got no problem with Zappa Gohar doing that. There's only David Payne to come, and really it's not necessarily his job to go blocking out for the length of time that's left.
Leg slip posted for the right-hander is Ryan Higgins. Ball played to backward square leg. 135 for 8, and Essex know only too well what a terrific player Higgins can be, but it's a bit of a different situation after what's already happened in next to no time this morning. 3 wickets going down for the addition of 3 runs in 4 overs as Harmer comes in again from the river end. Bowls to Higgins, and Higgins back cuts but finds the only man who could have done anything about it at backward point, and the over ends with Gloucestershire just 2 wickets for Essex to get at this stage, still trailing by 65 Gloucestershire. They are 135 for 8.
Yes, he just got the one bad ball that Simon Harmer's likely to bowl perhaps in the rest of the match, and Higgins finding the fielder at backward point. Yeah, I had another look at the Chris Dent dismissal on the live stream, and it was kind of as I'd thought really. It pretty much it pitches middle and goes on to hit middle and off. Yes, I'm sure Dent will say it didn't turn as much as I thought it was going to. But it wasn't, as I say, it wasn't one of those ones where you'd been leaving the ball consistently because it had been turning away from the bat, and then it had gone on with the arm and caught the outside of off stump. So a moment for Chris Dent to forget, I'm afraid.
It's just so surprising for such an accomplished player who'd been leaving the ball with fine judgment in his innings then, but it just was the last ball he should have left alone. So there we are, 135 for 8.
Sam Cook coming round the wicket to the left-handed Zafar, and that's outside the off stump, left alone, once more fizzing through to the gloves of Wheater, and it'll be interesting to see how both these two go about playing Sam Cook. Zafar has shown that he's not willing just to stand there and block, and in the first innings Ryan Higgins charged down, I think it was to Jamie Porter actually rather than Sam Cook. He charged down to about his 4th or 5th delivery and whacked him through square leg for 4. So whether Higgins will be doing any of that kind of stuff here, we'll see. Cook in and bowls, and a leave from Wheater, and that one he just had to incline his gloves quite rapidly up to his left hand side to take that one. Adam Wheater almost threatened to get by him.
Yes, I mean, Cook will never bowl at the sort of pace that would have the England bowling coaches beaming. But I always want to point out to the England bowling coaches, chaps, for all your love of extreme pace, have a look who takes all the wickets. I rate Robinson because he takes a lot of wickets, and of course Anderson and Broad, 1100 between them.
Here is Sam Cook bowling, and a tightish lead from Zafar, but comfortable enough, and it goes through quite low down this time to Wheater.
And when the evil moment comes, when Anderson and Broad are no more, Cook, who at the moment rightly wouldn't get a look in as a possible England bowler, but I would actually rate him good enough because he doesn't give silly runs away, and he's always at bats when he moves the ball around, and given sort of helpful English surfaces, I think he could do well once Anderson and Broad are gone.
Here's Sam Cook, he's there, and he bowls down the leg side, and it's knocked down by Wheater down the leg side, saving himself what would undoubtedly have been byes rather than wides. Yeah, I agree completely, and I think, you know, there's clearly going to be a vacancy for a Jimmy Anderson type bowler, and I feel a bit for Jamie Porter because there was a while when he was looking like the next chance the rank, and then all of a sudden he's not only has he been overtaken in terms of that, he's also been overtaken in terms of Essex bowlers looking to fill that role for the future, I think. As Sam Cook is in, past umpire Langley bowls, that one's right up in the block hole and squeezed out to mid-off by Zafar.
Porter sort of had not a great last 18 months, but having said that, he's bowling pretty well again, and the only person at the moment who's supplanted him in the Essex pecking order is this man, Sam Cook. And as I say, I really think Sam Cook, though not a spectacular sort of bowler, but he's so good, he gives so little away and takes a lot of wickets.
Sam Cook is in and he bowls, and that one nips away from the left-handed Zafar through to Adam Wheater, and Sam Cook has still not conceded a run this morning. 135 for 8, Zafar on 1, Higgins yet to get off the mark. I mean, there are a couple of other names knocking about along the line, but it's hard to look beyond Cook, and also I think to a certain extent coming into the equation as well is the games and the wins that Cook has been a part of.
Yeah, that's such a good point actually. I remember at Canterbury a couple of years ago in 2019, Essex trailed by 112 on first innings on a pitch that was doing everything as Harmer's in, and bowls to Higgins, who defends, still 135 for 8, and I thought, well, the only way Essex could ever get back into this game is to roll Kent over for under 100. They were all out for 40, and Cook got 7 for 23. There were some of the best batsmen in the country that he got out in the Kent top order. This next ball's played up to silly point, Zach Crawley for 1, Bell Drummond for another. So, you know, you're right, he's got really good people out as Harmer is in and bowls again to Ryan Higgins and whips this one away off the hip to Snater at mid-wicket. There's no run, 135 for 8. But certainly, as I say, Cook, in his fairly short career, he only made his debut in 2017, has never really had a poor season as Harmer's in and bowls, and this ball is played. They go for a quick single here. There's a shy at the stumps at the bowler's end, and Harmer, in a way a lot of bowlers wouldn't do, takes the ball. Admittedly it bounced in front of him, but it was shifting, and he's on top of all his other qualities, he's a courageous man, Harmer. He backs himself to deal with that kind of music. 136 for 8 on the board now, as Higgins is underway, and this next ball, not out of the middle of Zaha's bat, but the ball goes into the Gohar's bat, I should have said, goes to backward point. 136 for 8, 1 to each batsman. And Harmer to Gohar. Ooh, and that's, well, he was playing inside the line there deliberately, so if it was the arm ball, he was in the way of it, and as it turned, he knew he wouldn't get the edge. So that's 1 up to the batsman there. It was a good delivery from Harmer. The end of over the 68th of the innings, new ball due in 12 should the innings still be going, and Gloucestershire 136 for 8 with the not out batsmen each on 1.
Yeah, you're almost damned whichever way you do it. Because if you try and really concentrate and leave Harmer, then you're in danger of something similar to Chris Dent happening. If you do what Zafar just did, then whilst you are covering up off stump, if Harmer just gets the line exactly right, then you're just bringing the outside edge into play as well. So it's just very, very tricky. As Sam Cook bowls and Higgins feels for that one outside the off stump, but doesn't get the edge to it, and Wheater taking it quite low down.
Yeah, it's a great two-pronged attack list for Essex, because Harmer takes about a minute and a half to get through an over. And when you finally manage to do that and survive, you've got Cook, who's one of the best quicker bowlers in the country. Not extreme pace, but a great deal of craft and accuracy and relentlessness. And then suddenly you're right back with Harmer again.
Here's Sam Cook, bowls forward goes Higgins and plays off the outer half straight to backward point. So at the moment it looks as though Higgins has set his mind on keeping out the Essex bowling for as long as he can, and Sir Alistair Cook's doing some warming up at first slip. I remember when he did his Bob Willis impersonation at Lord's, I think it was. I'd be a bit surprised to see him come on here, but you never know. Here comes Sam Cook and he bowls, and that's driven by Higgins, but he's not able to pierce the offside field, and Snater does the fielding at cover. And it's just Essex. The other thing I've noticed about watching them, and I have been able to watch them a couple of times just as a neutral, which has been nice. It just feels like you can never get the ball through their field. They don't actually go ultra attacking in terms of leaving gaps open for the batsman to find. As here comes Sam Cook, and he's there, and forward goes Higgins, covering up the slight in movement that Cook was able to generate there in defence. Didn't move in quite as much as the delivery that got Van Buren out, LBW, but still had to be negotiated. But yeah, they'll put a lot of slips in place because they know they're going to be brought into play. It's just that the gaps, the most obvious scoring gaps, are covered up. There's no easy singles out into the covers, for example, or boundaries for that matter, as that's left alone by Higgins and through to Wheater. And it causes you to feel like if there's any bad ball that they bowl, and it's very rare, because we've mentioned the economy rates of Cook and Harmer that are both below 1.5 and over now. It must make you feel like you have to smash it as hard as possible, and you have to take full toll on it, which then unfortunately leads you to play a shot to a similar degree as Tom Lace did, as that's turned into the leg side by Higgins. Maybe a bit of bat and pad there as it goes behind square on the leg side. Higgins will get a run, and Sam Cook's conceded a run this morning. It's only taken him, what's that now, 4 overs. But a run has been scored off Sam Cook. Higgins will keep the strike, 137 for 8 at the end of that over, and Gloucestershire still trail by 63.
Yep, thank you. Then we should be going into the 11 o'clock news at any moment, but just at the moment they're talking about temperatures could get up to 30 degrees this afternoon in parts of Essex. It'd be away from the coast if they did. Just stand by in case I suddenly go into the news. But Harmer begins a new over from the river end, and they yes, we're going in right now. There's no run off the first ball, played to backward square leg. Stand by as we prepare to go in. A sensational start for Essex. They began needing those last 5 wickets to record another championship victory in this Division 2 of the 3-tiered championship, and they've got 3 of them, and we've only been playing for half an hour. Sam Cook bowling superbly, had Tom Lace caught by Harmer at second slip for a duck, and then he trapped Graham Van Buren palpably LBW with a near Yorker, and again he got a duck, and then Chris Dent, of many years experience for Gloucestershire, unaccountably left a ball that pitched leg and took Midland off, and was bowled without playing a shot for 11. So with just 5 runs added, Gloucestershire have slumped to 137 for 8, still 63 runs short of being able to make Essex bat again. And very eventful start to the day here. A dot ball while I was doing that update as Harmer is in again and bowls to Higgins, who plays a very pleasant off drive, but straight to Jamie Porter, just underlining the point that Ed was making, that even when a batsman plays a really nice shot, you think, well, that could go for 4, but the field is cannily placed by Tom Wesley as Harmer's in and bowls, gives this plenty of air, and appeal here, not out, as that turned very sharply indeed, and took Higgins on the pad there, and might have done too much, that actually. That might be the reason why Neil Bainton turned down an impassioned appeal, and certainly the batsman was right back on his stumps there. 137 for 8, the over ends. Gloucester still need another 63 to make Essex bat again.
Yeah, also, he was very far back, Higgins. I just wondered, again, whether it just struck Higgins up a little bit higher than possibly it may patch. Well, having said that, looking at the replay, Higgins may have played a shot at that, may have done. I thought that he didn't, but actually looking at the replay, there was more of a attempt at defending it than I thought, so maybe striking outside the line was more the issue there. So Sam Cook will continue from the Hayes close end, and Zafar Gohar on strike with 3 slips in place. Sam Cook is in, and a full delivery. Forward goes Zafar, playing defensively out towards mid-off. So Gloucestershire this morning would have had every hopes of, at the very least, avoiding the innings defeat, but now it's going to take a serious partnership here to do that, given how tricky it's been for the top order batsmen, albeit batting lower down than they would have expected this morning. It'll be very tricky for these two now as Zafar just turns that one into the leg side, and it's picked up by Paul Walter at mid-wicket. And a very good morning to Nick Gledhill.
Yeah, good morning, Ed. I was hoping to be with you for a bit longer today, but
yes.
It's not going to work out like that, is it, sadly? Do you know, when that last wicket went down, the reception from the crowd was quite muted, because they'd all come here today thinking there was going to be a nice long day's play. It reminded me of Rishabh Pant's dismissal at Headingley, which signalled to the Headingley Saturday crowd that they were going to be going home at 12:30. They would have liked to see a little bit more, so I think there's a tinge of disappointment.
Yep. Cook bowls, Zafar feels for that one. That's just a beautiful line and length from Sam Cook, and it may have bounced just in front of Adam Wheater actually in the end, but just a line that Zafar felt he had to play at. He's rehearsing the leave now, but I can see why he played at it, and just nibbling away from him.
Yes, I might not get a chance to discuss this with Paul today in half an hour's time, but certainly my Essex player of the season by a distance is this man, Sam Cook. 46 wickets at 16.
Wow.
Quite something.
Yeah, that's extraordinary average. Here he comes looking for more, and he bowls to Zafar. Goes for a flashing drive, and it beats him, I think, on the inside edge in the end, and somehow misses off stump as well. Could have been multiple forms of dismissal brought into play there, but it missed the inside edge, and through to Wheater it went.
And he missed a green top at Trent Bridge, which had been specifically prepared because Nottinghamshire probably had a sense he had to be rested because Essex played back-to-back games for 9 weeks in April and May. He missed out on that. Shane Snater got 7 wickets. So if you played on that, I suspect it'd be even better. He had to play out at Worcester instead on a pitch that offered nothing.
Ah, yes. Here's Cook, he bowls, and Zafar this time drives pleasantly, but it won't be a run as Snater moves across from extra cover in front of the fielder at mid-off to the field. Yeah, they had a few flatter surfaces at New Road this year.
Yes, I mean,
they struggled to get results in the first part of the championship. They had 6 draws out of their 10 matches.
Yeah, they're having a shocker in their current game. Had a disappointing season. Essex played Worcestershire twice in April on 2 very lifeless pitches. No fault of the groundsman here because it was too cold for the grass to grow in early April. But it was dry. It was a very odd climate.
Yeah, Cook bowls very full, driven down the ground, will only be stopped at mid-on, so no run once again, and that ends another maiden over from Sam Cook. 137 for 8 the total remains, and Gloucestershire still trailed by 63.
BBC Essex Cricket at gmail.com if you'd like to get in touch with us in probably the brief period we've got together on air. But Chris, nice to hear from you in Chelmsford. As Essex are in League 2, I was going to say brackets, how on earth are they in League 2? But that's what a lot of people will be thinking. But anyway, we'll come back to that. As Essex are in League 2 and cannot defend their championship trophy, is there a trophy to win in coming top of League 2? No. I think is the answer, isn't it, Ed?
No.
It's the glory of finishing 7th. Not that Essex will be too keen on that, really. Well, they're heading for 7th, I suppose we can say. Simon Harmer bowls, and that's a nice flowing cover drive. That's a good shot from Higgins for 4. What a shame that the likes of Van Buren or Lace or Dent couldn't just be there at the other end now, because you'd still feel that there's something for Gloucestershire to look for if that was the case. But first, really impressive shot of the morning for runs, and it's 4 of them, and it goes along to 6, and it's 141 for 8. Gloucestershire have lost 3 wickets this morning for the addition of 9 runs. That's right.
Yep, it is, and 3 for 2 it was.
And Harmer bowls with 4 round the bat. That's outside the off stump and left alone by Higgins. And Ken, one of our regular emailers. Morning, Ken. I was all set to send my usual blast of complaints about the late start to the commentary when you popped up dead on time. Well, we had to get in dead on time today, Ken, otherwise we would have missed it all, wouldn't we? But so, yes, I'm glad we were all on time today, on parade on time. Here's another good-looking cover drive for at least 2 by Higgins, being chased back by Rymel towards the deep cover boundary. They turn for the 3rd, and, nice to see a couple of shots from a very talented player in Ryan Higgins, and we're not going to have much chance to discuss Gloucestershire's season, Ed, but very near in Division, getting to Division 1. Just had a slight tail off, didn't they, towards the end of the campaign. Harmer bowls, and this is almost flicks the pad. Had it done, that would have been interesting because there was no shot offered, as it just had sort of held its line to a left-hander, Zafar, but I don't think it did flick the pad. Short leg, a slip, a silly point, and 5 saving 1 in bright sunshine, lovely warm day. And just a flatter one from Harlan, played by the left-handed Zafar, up into the onside, and there's no run. BBC Essex, BBC Radio Bristol, for what will probably be now a short 3rd day of this match. To Rybar, just playing that with an angled bat down to short 3rd man. There's no run. 144 for 8. Zafar 1, Higgins 9, and 3 wickets out this morning. Yes, thanks Ken for your comments, saying you'll enjoy listening to describing the forthcoming Essex win. Well, I think we can be fairly certain about that. Gloucestershire season, Ed, as I say, impressive early on in the championship. Like 1 or 2 sides in the section, they had sort of periods of good form and then tail off. Actually, if I remember rightly, they missed a round.
Right, and it was the early part of the season. They excelled themselves on pitches which weren't offering a huge amount. I mean, it was that we were talking about the period of cool, dry weather that we had, and a lot of sides around the country were struggling to take wickets. in the early part of the season as Sam Cook bowls to Higgins, who jabs that one away through the wide gully region. There's no third man in place, so Higgins will pick up a boundary and move up to 1,348 for 8. Was playing a little away from his body there, but I think it was just a case of enough width, and Higgins was able to keep it down through that gully region.
To be honest, if Cook doesn't get a wicket in this over, he might as well have a rest. I mean, I think, you know, it's still 52 behind. Another game, of course, starting on Sunday at the Oval, where probably a fairly flat pitch, so I want to save his energy for that one.
Cook into his run-up and past the umpire and bowls. Higgins turns into the leg side this time, but it'll only be, well, in fact it won't be anything, it'll be a dot ball straight to Walter at mid-wicket. And I think it's been Gloucestershire's strength as a side this season, has been taking games deep, taking it right to the end. We've had so many thrilling final session finishes. Gloucestershire have been on the right end of most of them.
Yeah, remember the 9 wickets down, outplayed at the Aegeus Bowl, but they hung on for a draw, and that looked like being quite an important 8 points at one point.
Yeah, definitely. It gave them the chance to draw that game at Cheltenham against Hampshire in the reverse fixture and still go through as Higgins goes forward and plays defensively up towards extra cover. And I think that's, you know, it's a really good quality to have as a side, but they haven't had a huge number. I mean, the Middlesex game at Lords, I think, really stands out, and I suppose that you could argue the Somerset game at Taunton as well. Those have been the 2 games where they've really, they haven't had to take it deep. The Middlesex game at Lords was the only game, I think, where you could say they've dominated completely from start to finish. As Sam Cook bowls, Higgins drives down the ground and picked up at mid-off, and there will be no run, unless I'm suddenly forgetting another. But they were on top in the end for the majority of the Somerset match at Taunton, but they were still well behind on first innings, and it took a lower order partnership to get them up towards parity there. But, you know, I think what we do know about Gloucestershire is that they have the ability to fight, and they have the ability to take it deep into the 4th day and get results. That's well wide of off stump and Higgins leaves, but at the same time there is still, and it's happened here, it's happened at Grace Road against the spin, it's happened at the Oval against the spin as well, and Somerset had also reduced Gloucestershire to, I think it was something like, I'll look it up exactly, it was something like 30 odd for 6 in what was a completely rain ruined match at Bristol. And as Cook bowls and Higgins works up to mid-on, and there won't be a run there either, but there's still that capability of getting bowled out for very low totals, and it had mostly, in fact it was even worse, that was 27 for 6 against Somerset, and you know, that one in particular, you could say mitigating circumstances, water had apparently got into the pitch, there was no possibility ever of getting a result. In fact, it was almost surprising that they managed to play on that day at all, but still adding in this one to the collapses and the big defeats at Grace Road and at the Oval, Division 2 sort of felt about right, because even though they have actually won, and it's only because of Yorkshire's win yesterday that it's joint, they have actually won the most games of Championship cricket in the country, but it felt, because of the fact that was then outweighed by a couple of very heavy defeats, that probably Division 2 was about fair, and especially because also Hampshire had outplayed them for...
Yes, I saw a day of that game.
Really.
I was so impressed by the setup at Cheltenham, obviously with a lot to contend with. It was brilliantly organised and had some quite nice weather as well, didn't it? As well, Harmer bowls, and coming down the pitch here, Zafar just slightly miscued, but he gets it away for at least 2 out towards deep mid-wicket. And Gloucestershire looking fairly relaxed now. I think the game is up with those 3 quick wickets this morning and 3 big ones as well. The men basically have been held back with the use of a night watchman last night. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. the 3 quick wickets to fall. As Harmer bowls. That one just had to be cautious there. Zafar, it went straight on. He's expecting it to just turn gently away from home. Went straight on, and he had to adjust late, just play it out into the offside, and there's no run. So 150 for 8 on a dramatic morning here. This is played defensively. Head over the ball up into the offside to City Point. 3 men around the bat at the moment. And Harmer from the river end, blue skies, and that one just played round the corner by Zafo. He's acquitting himself pretty well, it has to be said. And at least cricket being extended for a little while, but Gloucestershire still 50 behind. And feel we're just 2 wickets left, no real way back, as that one does turn, as expected, gently away from the left-hander. Let's say a dramatic morning so far, with those 3 wickets going down. As this is lofted away, good looking shot. Now that is a fine shot for 4 away through long off. He really did get to the pitch of that, lofted it to the right of Harmer, out of his reach, well away from mid-on. Perfectly safe shot, good use of the feet, and it's a fine stroke. He goes along to 7. It's 154 for 8. Higgins is 13. Zafar on 7. As I say, it's all been happening this morning. Tom Lace scored at second slip by Harmer off Cook for a duck. It was a pretty dramatic start in its own right, and then we had Van Buren LBW to Cook for naught from 4 balls, and a sort of inexplicable leave really from Chris Dent, bowled for 11 by Simon Harmer.
Yeah, and I suspect actually Zafar will have done an awful lot of his batting with spinners bowling from both ends, so you'd imagine that a lot of Pakistani batsmen, especially lower order batsmen, would be pretty adept at doing what he's just done. Use the feet to the spinner, get to the pitch of the ball, and he'd be relied on for, I guess, later, quicker runs. So you'd imagine that would be a strength of his, having not seen a great deal of him, obviously. So Shane Snater's into the attack now, and that's a very wide delivery to start off with, and Higgins he's only managed to get the toe end on it really out towards cover, and there's no run. He almost couldn't reach that.
Well, Snater, very much the hero of the Cardiff game, with runs as well, but also with his wickets, and slotted into the third seamer's role very well. That was a match in which Essex had no reserve options actually in their seam bowling attack. I understand Walter wouldn't have been allowed to bowl even if they'd wanted to when he replaced Lawrence.
Snater bowls, that is very wide again, and this time he will be punished for it, as it was, I suppose, just actually a little bit less wide than the last one, but that was his undoing, because it allowed Higgins to get more of the middle of the bat on, and he cut it away past backward point for 4 runs. So Higgins moves to 1758 now for 8. Gloucestershire trail by 42 runs.
So Snater has moved, because he is a wicket taker, he's moved to the sort of front of the pack, if you like, the contenders for the third seamer's role. Lots of others around, Beard, Ellis and Plum. The question is, can Essex rely on him in that role next season, or do they need an overseas quick?
Snater bowls forward straight, and Higgins defends up towards mid-off. And I suppose it's in this period that we have here where there's probably only, say, seedings for next year, prize money, all those sorts of things that it's quite difficult to get players as motivated for as if they were playing for a trophy, I think it's fair to say. Those are the sorts of things that I guess you're trying to look at, aren't you? But there's still so much changes before next season, it's hard even to say that. Snater in, and Higgins angles that one wide of backward point, who tumbles away to his left but can't prevent the single. So Higgins moves to 18. 59 for 8.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about not playing for a trophy, and as I say, hopefully that idea that we've been putting, I know that Kevin Howes was the first to advance it, and I've certainly supported it, that if we do have conferences next year, the 12 who are not in the top division go into 2 equal groups, and each play 4 games, and the winners of each group then play the Bob Willis Trophy final. Because if that were the situation this year, Essex would have 1 foot in that final by winning this match, having had a big win in their first game.
Snater coming round the wickets to Zaffa, and he bowls full driven, not timed perfectly, and it'll be stopped by Snater in the follow through.
And the thing is, Ed, even if you wanted to go back to 2 divisions in 2023, a top division of 10 and the bottom division of 8, you could still say, right, well, the top 2 in those 2 sections will join the top 6 in the top division in 2023. So that would be 2 things to play for. If you win the group, you get into a Lord's final, and if you finish top 1st or 2nd, you'd be in the top division in 2023. Well, my word, that would give a lot to play for, and you wouldn't have divisions 2 and 3, which would leave division 3 with nothing.
Snater bowls, and another drive from Zaffa, but not once again out of the middle of the bat, and it's stopped at cover. And the end of Snater's first over. He's conceded 559 for 8. Gloucestershire trail by 41. Ryan Higgins has moved positively onto 18, and Zaffa has 7 to his name. Yeah, I do like that. I must admit, I'd not heard that particular thinking before, but it does make a lot of sense.
It's basically the Europa League compared to a Champions League. Simple. That's the easiest analogy for anyone who's a football supporter to think of it.
And it also it gives
a competition in its own right for those not quite good enough for the top tier.
Exactly. It gives something that's achievable
Yes.
for a side that realistically, you know that you're not going to be winning the championship, but it gives you a more realistic aim for something to try and win.
And Harmer bowls. This is played defensively up into the onside. I mean, the thing about the setup this year is a side will win the championship, have a chance to celebrate, and then they've got to play, what, a 5-day game at Lords, I think it is?
Yeah.
Against a side that finishes 2nd. 4 men round the bat, including a silly point, and this is just stroked by Higgins, who's looking pretty good up to silly point, and there's no runs. Still the deficit is 41. Can Gloucestershire wipe off the deficit? That's the next challenge, I guess. 159 for 8 on a bright sunny morning here at Chelmsford. A crowd with mixed feelings, I guess, of what they've seen so far in terms of the length of play they'll see today, and that's played off the back foot and into a gap between mid-off and cover, and they get through for a single. BBC Essex, BBC Radio Bristol, Ed Seaborn, Nicola Hill and Paul Newton here on this 3rd, and I'm afraid almost certainly final morning of this match, penultimate match of the season at Chelmsford in the County Championship. Short leg slip and a silly point, and off the back foot this is played up to cover point, and there's no run. So far looking pretty good. So I might get a chance to talk to Paul actually about what he thinks about Shane Snater as a 3rd seamer versus an overseas quick next year. In the first choice side, there's Harmer bowling. It's turning away from the left-hander. But all the damage done really in those first 4 overs, 10:30 start. And it was all very difficult for Gloucestershire, 2 to Cook and 1 to Harmer. And this is just played gently from the crease by Zaffa, just round the corner. So 19 on the board to Higgins and 7 to Zaffa. A little bit of a face-saving partnership, except we've only got 4 overs to a new ball, and it's 160 for 8, Zaffa 7 and Higgins 19.
Yeah, and the overseas conversation is something that will happen over the off-season. Of course, Gloucestershire are going to be appointing a new director of cricket, so it'll be a new role. They haven't had one of those before. Richard Dawson have been kind of filling both coach and director of cricket, but next season there will be both head coach and a director of cricket, and I can't remember exactly what they called the role, but it is director of cricket. It's not I don't think it was actually called that, but anyway, that is one thing. So it'll be up to, of course, the new management team to decide that. As here comes Snater, and he bowls, and Higgins with a flirt, really. It was an attempted cut shot, and it looked like he was trying to maybe lay back and play that one behind square, because you've got that deep point out now. But it was a dangerous shot, and he managed to miss it in the end, and it went through to Wheater. But Zaffa being an overseas spinner, if early season conditions are going to be like they were this season, then an overseas spinner actually pretty useful as an all-season option. As once again Higgins playing well away from his body loosely and through to Wheater, well wide of off stump, but Higgins not in a great position to play that shot.
Brian said a little while ago the picture is frozen on the stream. Hopefully it's unfrozen now, Brian. And our sports editor Glenn Speller's been in touch to point out I've already seen more cricket here today than Dick Davis did at Cardiff last week, and that I had the bonus of only having to travel 20 miles rather than rather a lot more for poor old Dick last week. But that was firmly the luck of the draw.
Here comes Snater, he's in, and once more bowling very wide, trying to draw Higgins into the shot. But just to finish the point on Zafar though, he's clearly somebody who likes it in England, because he's been over for at least a couple of seasons before this to play club cricket here at a club called Modershall, I'm not sure which way they say it, and Alton, which is near Stone, Staffordshire. So
there's a couple of Altons, there's one in Hampshire, isn't there?
Oulton.
Right, got it.
As Snater is in, and Higgins this time leaves alone through to Adam Wheater. So, you know, there's a bit of an audition possibly here for Zafar. You can imagine that he would want to come back next year if he were offered the chance. Equally, you could say, no, we still need another seamer as an overseas quick. Gloucestershire do have quite a few quick bowlers at their disposal, but you could say if we're really going to make a push here, we need another overseas quick. As Snater is in and Higgins forward in defence out towards cover, and then I think you probably would have to say they would need to look at an overseas batsman again. I think that's pretty much everybody would be in agreement there. Whether it would be another opener type, now you've got Charlesworth back.
Yes, he's done pretty well, hasn't he?
Yeah, at the start of the season you didn't have Charlesworth, so an opener made special sense there, whereas now you could say, well, Charlesworth, if he's fit and healthy, he should be having the extended run, opening the batting with maybe Hammond or Dent, as that's a full delivery driven firmly by Higgins, but won't get a run as it's fielded up at mid-off. And that is the end of that over. Maiden from Shane Snater, that's his first, and at the end of that one, Gloucestershire 160 for 8. They trail by 40. So it's a conversation that's ongoing, and it's tricky. I think it is tricky to know what to do because of the fact that we had that dry spell at the start of the season where you needed a spinner really in those conditions. And also Gloucestershire have been afraid, I think, of teams preparing spinning surfaces against them, knowing that they don't have the overseas spinner that other sides have had, and they didn't. The other special circumstance this year was they didn't have Graham Van Buren, who was forced to play as an overseas player due to pace.
Yes, I remember that story. Yes,
so he could have played and been an extra spin option. So Tom Smith and then Glenn Phillips, when he was playing, but he only played one of the two matches on the turning surfaces, were having to be the spin options. So yeah, it's difficult to know what to do, and the conversation will be ongoing.
Yeah. So Harmer, is that off the bat and pad to short leg? I don't think so. There was a stifled shout from Harmer, suggesting the ball might have gone back onto pad and then almost into the hands of short leg, who sort of tried to take it on the half volley and couldn't quite. So there are a couple of near things for that. Harmer bowling to Zafar, the left-hander, who's there on 7 at 160 for 8. That is off the pad only. Pops up into the onside and picked up there by Pepper in at short leg. And still waiting for Pepper, of course, to really make an impact in the championship at Chelmsford to quite the same extent, but he has away from home. As this is played off the back foot. Into the offside. There's no run. Batted beautifully in Cardiff last week to add to the I think it was 92, 96, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he made at Durham. An away specialist at the moment, Pepper, as that is just a gentle turn from Harmer and left alone by Zafar, and there's no run. So hopefully you're still hearing us loud and clear, because Ken is just saying that he's lost us briefly, but hopefully we're still going out loud and clear. I'm sure we'll get more emails if we're not, as that's just played defensively up into the offside, and there's no run. So 160 for 8, 3 wickets falling in an absolute flurry in the first 4 overs. 2 to Cook, 1 to Harmer. Oh, that's a beauty from Harmer. Pitches round about middle and off, draws Zafar into the defensive shot and turns past the outside edge, lovely piece of bowling. 160 for 8, Zafar 7, Higgins 19, and Daryl Mitchell, whose retirement was announced yesterday, says on social media, all good things come to an end. Thanks to all my teammates, coaches, the staff members and supporters of Worcestershire, and of course friends and family for making it such a special journey. So many laughs, so many great memories. On to the next chapter. So Daryl Mitchell retiring after virtually 2 decades at Worcestershire, and it won't feel the same without him. So we wish him a very happy retirement. I can tell you that in Division 1 of the Championship, mainly because Somerset are no longer losing wickets at Yorkshire because the game's over, none have fallen this morning in either game, which is quite interesting. Here's Snater with Paul Newton to describe it.
Thanks, Nick. Bowles, Higgins always almost caught there as the ball just bounces in front of Simon Harmer under the sun hat at second slip, and Harmer drops next to nothing in the full season and does well to stop that, but just needed another foot of carry, and that would have been 9 down. But well done to Ryan Higgins for restoring a bit of sanity for Gloucestershire. He's 19 not out, and at the other end Gohar has played well on 7. Snater, Hayes close end. Glorious morning here at the County Ground, and that's a leave outside off stump, and score remaining at 160 for 8.
Well, we'll need to get a bit of play, Paul, because I almost sensed there was a bit of a muted reception when Dent was bowled for that leave against Harmer, and everyone thinking, well, we've just come all the way here, we're going to have to turn around at 10 to 11 and go all the way home again. So a bit of relief to see some extended play.
Absolutely, but Essex have sort of cultivated the science of giving nothing away, even when they're not taking wickets. There's not many runs being scored. As this ball from Snater to Higgins is played down to mid-off, and Tom Wesley, the skipper, there's no run there. And I interviewed Tom Wesley up at Cardiff when Essex had lost the 50 overs quarter-final, and I said to him, some would say there's nothing to play now for the rest of the season. I assume you wouldn't. And he said, no, I take no heed of that statement. You know, there's always something to play for, your personal pride, etc., etc. And he's quite right to say that. As this next ball is played into the covers, and it would be nice if there were rather more to play for, but Essex cannot be faulted for the way they've come back after that break, Nick.
No, they've been very good indeed, it has to be said, as have Nottinghamshire, of course, in the latter half of the conference stage and the start of this Division 1, and the 6th wicket pair are still together. Lyndon James 33, Tom Moore's 40, so they're 174 for 5 in their second innings, leading Lancashire by 278.
Snater bowls a leave outside off stump, and all that, Nick, from a side who'd gone 3 seasons without a win in the county championship. Of course, Essex were the last side they'd beaten in 2018, but well done to them, they're having a terrific season.
So they put on, I think, something like 67 now, and the other partnership, which is certainly becoming quite a significant one, is 78 unbroken for the Hampshire 9th wicket at Edgbaston. Hampshire, 20 wickets fell on the first day there, 286 for 8. Keith Barker 66 not out.
Next delivery is played firmly down to mid-off, and there's no run there, and the over ends from Snater. Didn't trouble the batsman at all. Higgins remains on 19, 7 to go hard. Maiden over nonetheless, 160 for 8.
Barker took 5 for 43 in the Warwickshire innings of 116, and well, not quite single-handedly, because Mohammed Abbas got 5 wickets as well, but he could be single-handedly preventing Warwickshire from repeating their championship triumph of 2012, which he was part of. And he's doing a lot at the moment to stop them winning for the first time in 9 years, because they are the current leaders, of course.
That's right. It's a neat little symmetry there in the process of a decade of someone who could be bookending triumphs for 2 different teams.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot. Hampshire still got to play in Nottinghamshire and Lancashire. But I suppose if they were to win all 3 games, including this one, they're certainly in the hunt. Here's Harmer bowling, and that's hit away down the ground for 4. Good shot, good use of the feet from Zafar. Got to the pitch of it, along the ground for 4 runs to a long-on boundary. And, well, they're 36 away from getting to parity, but they've only got 2 wickets left. That's the snag.
And I'll tell you what, there's nobody in this very reasonable last day crowd here who would object to Gloucestershire making Essex back again. Brackets provided the Gloucestershire don't then overstay their welcome and sell Essex too many.
Harmer bowls, And Zafar just leaves that alone. Well, we've had a big ninth wicket stand at Edgbaston. Maybe there could be one here. 164 for 8. And Simon Harmer, who's on 3 for 60 bowls, and that coming down the pitch here. Zafar gets to the pitch of it and just plays it out to Nick Brown at a short cover. There's a backward point, sort of fairly deepish cover, a mid-off, a mid-on, and a short fine leg, and a man sort of, that one's just played up into the covers as well, and a man about halfway back to the mid-wicket boundary. Wouldn't call him a mid-wicket, too deep for that. So a bit of an in-out field, a slip and a short leg for 2 attacking fielders, and that short cover of Nick Brown, as this is played off the back foot towards backward point, and there is no run. Yes, it's a shame, because coming here today with 2 night watchmen having gone, you felt if Gloucester could make a decent start and get through the first hour, it could be quite intriguing. It could go into a 4th day. But it's not quite panned out like that, or doesn't look like doing so. Harmer floats one up and just played defensively by Zafar, head over the ball. And we're going to have a bit of a breather, so a bit of a break. So 164 for 8, Zafar 11, Higgins 19, 2 to Cook and 1 to Harmer this morning. Harmer 3 for 60 in 35 overs.
Phenomenal bowling, both from Harmer and the brilliant Sam Cook, who has got roughly 3 for 30 in 20 overs. Extraordinarily fine bowling from Cook, who's hardly bowled a bad ball in his entire spell. Harmer, we know already, is a phenomenon, or just a phenom as they call it in the States. And well, it's if I had one bit of advice for Gloucestershire, it would be rethink your night watchman strategy. Now, I know it's dangerous to judge people and condemn people on the evidence of one particular thing that's happened, and if they didn't play a night watchman last night and the top order batsman got out, then I fully accept that they'd say, well, we should have played a night watchman. But nothing could have been worse, really, than using 2 night watchmen, both of whom were out before the close. Why they went for any run at all in the final over, when the idea was to protect Chris Dent, who was safely ensconced at the non-striker's end, we'll never know. But then, of course, the double irony was that both the batsmen who'd been protected by not having to come out last night were promptly dismissed this morning. And I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier to bat last thing on a hot summer's day here at Chelmsford in the final session than it is first up in the morning.
Absolutely.
So here is Jamie Porter taking over from Shane Snater bowls, and the ball's played back to the bowler, 2 slips and a gully. And I just wanted to make the point, Nick, before you come in, that I did just notice a slight, I won't say argument at all, but I think Porter was slightly miffed that Snater came on rather than him in the pecking order when Cook came out of the attack.
Yeah, in fact, I mentioned on air that I thought Cook needed a rest, because it could be quite a flat one at the Oval next week, and slightly surprised Snyder came on first, and doubtless Porter shared that surprise.
I think he did, you know. Porter's bowling very well again, I'm delighted to say, having not been at his best for a little while, and he comes and bowls, and that keeps low, and nearly had his man Ryan Higgins there, who digs it out well. 19 to Higgins, he's been on 19 for a good 20 minutes now.
Alan Bradford on BBC Essex Cricket@gmail.com says, hi guys, I know it was a long time ago, but does anyone remember Trevor Bailey playing on the right wing for Walthamstow Avenue Football Club in the 50s? I saw him many times. Football in the winter, cricket at times in the summer at the county ground late. And yes, a great all-rounder, Trevor, and of course went on to be a fine broadcaster as well.
I'll come back to that point, Trevor, in just a moment. I didn't see Trevor play football, but breaking because Porter's on his way to Higgins, plays it back to the bowler. But what I will tell you, Trevor, is that I interviewed Trevor in his own home, and it was about an hour's interview. I had the great pleasure of commentating with Trevor as the summariser for Cricket Corps back in the 80s, and Trevor was just the most delightful man to work with. And I said, one final question, Trevor. One day of your sporting career you could relive and have a game, what would it be? And he said, FA Amateur Cup final, Walthamstow, Wembley, 100,000. Next ball played to mid-wicket, there's no run. He said, you don't get that in cricket grounds.
So he didn't pick the famous partnership with, what was it, Willie Watson?
No.
To save a game. He didn't pick getting Keith Miller out when Keith left it alone on the 7:21 day in 1948.
For the good reason.
Yes.
Trevor broke a digit after that. They broke a finger. So the day didn't end as well as it had looked like, because he and Keith Miller became great friends. And here is Porter in, bowls, and the ball played back to the bowler. And on that subject, of course, another very unlikely liaison was Trevor Bailey and Fred Truman from opposite ends of the social scale, but great mates, thought the world of each other. And certainly Trevor Bailey, he was a remarkable man, because to listen to him talk, he talked clearly public school educated, but a lot of the people he really liked were from the working classes.
John, sorry you're getting some commentary broke up. I presume that's on the stream. You see you've been having that for the last 20 minutes or so hopefully that's being rectified.
Porter's in bowls, the ball's jabbed into the offside to backward point, there is no run. Yes, I have heard a sort of strange edge to the in my headphones to the sound of ourselves, and I can only apologise, but not a lot we can do about it, I'm afraid. The old equipment seems to be wavering a little bit at the end of the season. 19 to Higgins, he remains, playing thoroughly well here and very professionally. He's not giving his wicket away just because the end looks to be nigh, and I like the way Gohar's played, Nicky. I like the way he uses the feet to Simon Harmer.
Do you notice whether the new ball had been taken? Because that might have been ploy to have, as Andrew's suggesting, Porter being safe for the new ball. But Harmer's still continuing, so he's got to, if it has been taken, he's got a brand new ball.
Yes, I haven't seen any brandishing there.
No. Let's have a look. We'll probably get an idea with the bounce as he bowls, and that one does actually turn and bounce a little bit, and it's nicely gathered in by Wheater behind the stumps. But
maybe Wesley's thinking of saving on the expense of a new ball that might sort of only have 4 or 5 overs.
So here is Harmer again. Certainly didn't see it being brandished, as that's played defensively. Just head over the ball, not much bounce in that one. It's quite a hazy skyline actually, but it's certainly a very, very fine day. 2 very warm days for early September, today and tomorrow. And down the pitch comes Zafar. Beautiful shot. Lofted away. It goes for at least for 1 bounce, in fact, before it goes to the boundary down in front of a Tom Pearce down to our left. Nice use of the feet. He's played Harmer very well. He's been prepared to take him on and played a fine stroke there. 168 for 8 with deficit 32 and Zafar 15.
Doing jolly well, this partnership. And ironically, it's Gohar rather, who's the more belligerent of the two at the moment. Higgins, who of course can hit the ball phenomenal distances. If he'd been hitting that ball, they'd be fishing it out of the river behind us here. But he is sort of blocking, while Gohar every now and then dances down the track to Harmer with considerable aplomb, and so far he's brought it off. But Harmer is at his most dangerous when someone's just hit him.
Slip on a short leg, short cover, and 4 others saving 1, a deepish mid-wicket. That's a nice bit of turn from Harmer, which beats the defensive shot of Zafar, and he's just well not to get an edge to that. Cook stands with looking down with hands on his knees and looks up now, and Snater comes in to bowl, and that one just pitches and turns, but time for the batsman or left-hander to get onto the back foot and just steer it down to a safe region on the bounce, just in front of himself on the offside. Harmer again bowls, and this time again back into his crease and playing defensively back down the pitch. So 3 very early wickets, and 168 for 8, a little bit of a recovery with the 9th wicket, and got Zafar 15 and Higgins 19. And Chris on our email says, I'd like to see Aaron Nijar brought into the side for the match at the Oval next week on what could well be a wicket favouring the batsman. It would mean leaving out Rymel or Pepper, but Nijar's a very capable batsman, and Wheater is perfectly able to bat at number 6. What are your thoughts on that? So thanks for that, Chris. I'd certainly like to see Nijar play one of the last 2 games, and ditto Tenduscarter.
Yes, very good point. I hope the fact that Tenduscarter isn't in the side now isn't a sign that we shan't see him after this season. What a wonderful player he has been, an inspirational captain, and one of my favourite Essex players of all time. So just in case we don't see Ryan after this season, thanks for the memories, Ryan. Absolutely superb. And yes, I would like to see Nijar given a game in red ball cricket as Porter's in, bowls, and this ball is forced in the offside. They take a single, so Higgins at last is off 19 on to 20, 169 for 8. I get my figures the wrong way round. Still 31 needed to oblige Essex to bat again. A couple of tie-ins I wanted to mention from what we've been talking about. Going back to Trevor Bailey and people who have great relationships with overseas players. Derek Underwood was once a guest at the Cricket Society, the Essex Cricket Society, of which I've been chairman, and he'd just come back, Derek Underwood, from spending a fortnight with Dennis Lilly at Dennis Lilly's home in Australia. Now, two less likely people, you'd think, to be great friends in their retirement than Dennis Lilly and Derek Underwood. You'd be hard to mention, but they were. Here is Porter around the wicket, bowls to Gohar. The first time he'll have actually faced the quicker bowler from the Hayes Close end for a few overs, and there's no run into the covers, 169 for 8.
I think we've got confirmation a new ball was taken, so that explains. Thanks, Andrew, for that. New ball sneaking up on us. So Harmer is bowling with a new ball, and this is Porter's second over.
Yes, Harman's quite happy to bowl with a new ball, or indeed quite happy to bowl, full stop.
Maybe Porter was saying to Wesley, well, the new ball's coming up, are you going to have Snater or me?
Yeah, could well be. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be it. Thank you to whoever emailed that point. As Porter's in, bowls nicely clipped off the pads. Gap here, Gohar is going to pick up at least 2. It won't quite go to the boundary. Sam Cook is bounding after it, and not only is he a very fine bowler, but very good fieldsman as well, as he underlines with a nice return to Wheater, 3 runs, and the worthy Gohar now moves along to 18, the score to 172 for 8.
Yes, it's interesting with Paul Walter making that 96, and with Nick Brown having got 100 at Cardiff. In order to accommodate the introduction of Aaron Nijar perhaps at the Oval, might have to make an interesting selection decision there. I don't think they're going to look at playing Walter as a third seamer, which would be one potential option if Walter was on form, but he hasn't been in his best bowling form this year.
No, it's still a bit surprising. He never seems to get a bowl these days. I wonder if he's got a bit of a niggle, but next ball is left outside off stump. Just wanted to say as well that the Essex Cricket Society, which I was just mentioning, and for whom the first guest of my chairmanship back in November 1999 was the aforesaid Trevor Bailey. Thank you for bringing him up, Trevor. This is the Trevor email, not Trevor Bailey himself. But I have today decided it's time for someone else to assume the chair, because it is intended that the society gets going again after the COVID break. But I've done 21 years, time to let someone else have a go, as this ball is run down to third man for 4 by Ryan Higgins. Just really quite a defensive shot, that Porter offering him the width to guide it past the slip cordon. 24 to Higgins, 176 for 8, and a good partnership has now put on 42.
You and Darryl Mitchell in the same couple of days then.
Yes.
2 decades at the helm, leading the way. So, well, certainly, Paul, everyone grateful for your contribution in that role.
Yes,
and certainly, you know, I know it's been very favourably received. Well, it's nice to chat cricket in the winter, isn't it?
Well, it is, and we've had some absolutely outstanding guests in the course of those 21 years as Porter's in. Bowls, and this ball is played back to the bowler. There's no run. That's the end of the Porter over, and Gloucestershire are 176 for 8.
And then some less outstanding ones like Dick and myself occasionally coming in, but
that was great.
But no, so there's the big announcement of the morning from Paul. Just to recap, say apologies for the commentary breaking up. John, I don't know whether that's actually on the stream or online, but I'll try and check what's going on when I'm off air in about 10 minutes' time. So all the action really in the first 4 overs this morning. It was very dramatic. They'd saved their best batsman for the morning, and it turned out to be not the best ploy. Lace called it second slip by Harmer off Cook, who then had Van Buren LBW before a strange non-shot from Chris Dent against Simon Harmer, and he was clean bowled for 11, not offering a stroke. Since then it's been these two, and this is played on the bounce to short leg by Zafar. 176 for 8, 24 is the deficit. 76 played 276 in the first part of the game, and Harmer with a slip of short leg and a short cover. And there's a sweep from Zafar and gets it through short fine leg for 4. Reimer will probably feel that's not his greatest moment. He rather dived over the top of it. And I suppose the one fortunate thing is it's not likely to be crucial in the match context as he goes to collect it by the boundary balls. Not the sort of thing you want to do when it's 4 to win in a T25 ball.
No, that's very good last ball of the day as it turned out last night.
Slip on a short leg and off the back foot. Fine stroke by Zafar, but Harmer doesn't concede a run here because Snater reacts quite quickly in the covers. It's very fluently timed, but he gets across and prevents a run. 180 for 8. Harmer bowls, and this time Zafar gets a ball that bounces. That's an indication of a new ball, and that did surprise him. That pitched and almost went up vertically. He's gone to prod the pitch there.
Yeah, he's still played it well, in avoiding getting the edge there.
Yeah, they've shown fight Gloucestershire throughout the season off the back foot. This is played up into the covers by Zafar. I think fair assessment from Ed about Gloucestershire. They are sort of like a middle ranking side, and if it does come that four of the sides next year who aren't in the top division will get through to a top division in 2022, I back Gloucestershire to be amongst them. This is played off the back foot up into the covers, and there's no run. We think we're going to have conferences again next year, and I say just want to see something a bit more dynamic in September to have some real meaning to the cricket. And 180 for 8. My idea, backing up one made by Kevin Howes, is that these 12 sides who aren't in the top division, you split them into 2 even groups of 6.
Yeah.
They still play the 4 games, and the winner of each group contests the Bob Willis final. It's like the Europa League against the Champions League. It's a competition in its own right.
Yeah.
And I think it would just give a little bit more impetus. And if you want to go back to 2 divisions in 2023, you could say the top 2 in each of those sections would join the top 6, the Super 6 if you like, in the top division in 2023.
But in fairness to Gloucestershire, there's another point to be made, and that is, but for COVID, they just got promoted to Division 1, and for my money deserved their chance to play in the top division. Here is Porter in and bowls, and this ball is played away through backward point. Higgins the man on strike, the bowler is Porter. They're coming back for 2. You'll have to hurry, but he does. He's safely home. He's moved up to 26. It's 182 for 8. Super cricketer is Higgins.
My fear for Gloucestershire there is that the further we go away from 2019, the less relevant the placings of 2019 become, and of course particularly if not to win the championship, who are a second division side at that point. And then you start to think, well, how do you incorporate them? So I think it will be conferences next year again, and they might give some advance warning that things might change in 2023.
2 slips still as Porter's in, bowls and play back to the bowler.
One thing I'm pretty certain of, Paul, is that if Surrey had thought that their game at Durham would be potentially meaningful in terms of being in Division 1 next year, they may well have made the trip. Because it seems there was a problem with COVID in the Hampshire-Warwickshire game, which was sorted out in an hour, and the game went ahead.
Yeah, I know it's
very odd.
Yeah, it's a strange situation. Just going back to what I was saying about the Cricket Society, and I was saying Trevor Bailey was our first guest, and Dick and myself were among the next guests there, all together one evening, a BBC Essex evening. This ball's played to mid-wicket, there's no run. And at that time, I was about the youngest person in the room, or one of the younger ones. I'm afraid to say, one of the younger ones, and in the meantime an audience of 100 has sort of dwindled to round about 50. It is a problem that youngsters nowadays are not interested in county cricket the way youngsters were not that long ago, up till about the end of the 80s. There was plenty of teenagers who were mad keen on county cricket. Nowadays they are, but only if it's white ball. As this next ball is played into the covers, there's no run there. 182 for 8. So our committee, roughly 7 or 8 in number, is more or less evenly divided between those of us who feel that actually perhaps time to call it a day. But as one of those, I wish whoever takes over nothing but the very best in trying to get people enthused about it to carry on. As Porter is going to bowl to Higgins, who's played a very fine hand here. Power to add as he plays the ball down to mid-off. There's no run there. 182 for 8. I was saying yesterday, Nick, that one of the many things that, with all due respect to Middlesex, I don't understand is why they let Higgins go. He's outstanding.
Well, they probably won't need him in their current game after that huge opening partnership, which took out the Gatting Langer record at Southgate and was threatening to take out Holmes and Sutcliffe at Leighton.
How many was it in the end?
I think it was just a couple more in the end than
so
the
what
record.
would it have been?
372, I think, was the record.
Good Lord, as this next ball is played to mid-wicket and there's no run, but I understand Stoneman on loan and about to become a permanent player at Middlesex was one of those involved.
Yeah, 376, which I think was 4 more than the Gatting Langer at Southgate. Middlesex are 494 for 3. Sam Robson out for a career best 253 with a 6 and 34s. And interestingly, if it had been last year, they'd now have to declare in 3 overs time with the rules for COVID last year. And you could say that this is exactly the right sort of situation that they were thinking about for that, where obviously it's a very young Sussex attack, and you just wonder how many more Middlesex want to get. I suspect they'll probably bat at least till lunchtime there, but obviously a bit of a mismatch with George Garton playing but not bowling, because I think he's basically being saved for the T20 finals day, and he's not really bowled any red ball, like a lot of players of course, for a long time. Here's Harmer with a slip on a short leg and a short cover, and it's played off the back foot by Zafar for a single. So thanks, John, telling us that we're having problems online. So I'll try and just have a listen to what the issues are there and see if we can get anything done about that. Just seem very odd, because we're normally online, we're either going out or we're not going out. So it's odd that we're getting some transmission breakup. 183 for 8, but apologies for that.
Yes, a sort of compromise. So was it Ken Collier? It was somebody Collier who used to specialise in interrupting himself at regular intervals. So it sounded like there was interference. An old comedy act of decades ago.
Slip on a silly point and 2 short legs as Harmer bowls, and Higgins off the back foot cracks it away to backward point, and there's no run. 183 for 8. Keith Barker is out at Edgbaston for 75. Hampshire 304 for 9. Lead Warwickshire by 277. Remember, yesterday Yorkshire beat Somerset in 2 days at Scarborough. Absolutely huge win. As down the pitch, this is driven away up towards mid-off by Higgins, and great to have a Scarborough fixture in such beautiful weather, Paul, but sad it was over in 2 days.
Well, it always is there, isn't it, one way or the other. Of course, Essex won in 2 days on their last visit. Mohammed Amir playing wasn't his last first-class game, getting on that way.
Harmer bowls, an attempted forcing shot by Higgins, and I understand Glenn Speller, our sports editor, is having a look at that situation for us, so hopefully we'll get it rectified.
Thanks,
no
Glenn.
run there. 183 for 8. Not sure, Paul, we'll get to do much more together today, who knows, but I'll leave you with a question after his Harmer overs. That's cracked away off the back foot for at least 2. It's being chased back in the wide open spaces out towards deep cover by Porter, and they get back for 2. Yeah, my Essex player of the season by a reasonable distance is Cook. To average your wickets at 16, 46 at 16 is extraordinary.
Outstanding. It's a good choice. I've always, in fact, I'll come back to that in a moment.
As Harmer bowls, it's played defensively up to mid, and he missed the green top at Trent Bridge.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you were with me. I think we were broadcasting together. It must have been August 2017 or July 2017. Essex v India tour game. And this bloke Cook, who we'd never heard of before, came on from the Hayes Close. I say came on, he opened the bowling, and literally within half an hour he won us over. We said that's the best new bowler we've seen Essex, and this is including people like Jamie Porter, but we said as a debut, that is the best debut we've seen from an Essex bowler for decades, you know, and he hasn't let us down. I was saying earlier with Ed that when Anderson and Broad are no more in terms of the England team, he's got to be fairly near the top of people's shortlist.
And although mixed feelings on the 100, I was pleased to see he got the recognition to be selected for the 100.
Yes.
Played a few games for the Trent Rockets, and I think made a good impression there. He's developed as a white ball bowler particularly impressively this season. Ed Seaborn coming back in at 185 for 8, see if his 9th wicket pair can continue. 15 is a deficit, worth pointing out. So of course once they get that, it will extend play because Essex have got to get the runs.
Thank you very much to Nick Gledhill, and that's the first time he and I have worked together this season on red ball cricket. The only other occasion was a white ball game, Essex in the match where they beat Yorkshire 3 weeks or so ago in the 50 over competition, went to Cardiff just 2 days later and were turned over by the eventual winners Glamorgan, and very well done to Glamorgans. Here, appeal for LBW, but it was palpably pitching outside leg, and the left-handed Gohar will stay on 23 not out, because that's a leg by, but 14 runs short of making Essex bat again, 186 for 8, and we are, in fact, I think we've missed pointing out the 50 partnership, 52 for the 9th wicket, and Ed Seaborn, who would have certainly thought when he vacated his seat half an hour ago that he wouldn't be returning, has gloriously, there is cricket here, and back he is as this next ball is hit down by Ryan Higgins to third man, and they get a single, 187 for 8 at the end of that over. 13 more needed to make Essex bat again. 29 to the man who has 29 on his back, Ryan Higgins, and 23 to Gohar. And what a good partnership this is, Ed.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching it from the back of the box, that's for sure, and I've been really impressed with Zafar, how he's played Simon Harmer. I don't think there are many English batsmen who would have had the confidence that Zafar had to use his feet against Harmer.
Very good point.
As Porter now bowls to Zafar inside edge. So one of the first real moments of true alarm for a while. Pardon me, was that your ball?
It's all right. You've just joined, so you do quite rightly. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just to endorse what you're saying, Zafar has used the feet as well as anybody I've seen facing Harmer this season. And the third ball that he faced, he came down the track, and the important thing is, if you're going to come down the track, you've got to do something. You mustn't leave it or miss it and get stumped. And he looks pretty rock solid at knowing what he's doing.
Here is Porter, bowls. Oh, a bit of a lift on that one, and Higgins' outside edge was beaten there, but he didn't push too far away from his body there. It was just a good ball from Porter and beat his outside edge through to Wheater. And it's been the choice of delivery that he's come down to as well. Harmer hasn't known exactly what Zafar's going to do, which for once has meant that Harmer can't bowl exactly the ball that he wants to bowl every single ball, which has pretty much been the case throughout the innings until that point. Porter bowls to Higgins, who clips away but rolls it quietly to Walter at mid-wicket and won't pick up a run.
And in spite of the new ball having been taken, and we're only in the 7th over thereof, Wesley has gone a little bit more on the defensive. He's taken Harmer out of his residency at second slip and pushed him into quite a close gully.
Yes, that is very close, and I think I would be quite tempted to have a helmet on if I were. message said. It said something not connected, or I'm not exactly sure what it said.
No, it's that's interesting.
Could be 6.
It says
Well, something's come back.
Well, maybe it wasn't not connected, something not found. Maybe I'll try again and I'll let you know what the error message was.
This is when I was at most dangerous, I just cloud it from 6 or 4.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Tries it again.
Yeah. Cheers.
The lights have come on, but it won't let me ring anything.
Let me try. Oh god. I'm going to try again with this.
Yeah.
And then I'll let my editor know what the exact message that I'm getting is.
Suggested something. It might be something. If that isn't dialing in, it means there's a problem in this box. Because we won't have two that aren't working at the same time. So it might be that kit is fine.
Right. If I plug it in here,
Yes,
then
do
we'll
that.
switch over.
Do that. The funny thing is now, which didn't happen before, the red light comes on with the microphone and it reacts when I speak, but I can't get the number to dial in, and the red and green lights don't come on. Yeah.
Oh, it's already still plugged in actually.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
Grab that.
There you go.
If your kit isn't working either, it's got to be.
Well,
196 for 9.
It was working, not working.
No, a drop. Very difficult full-length dive by Cook.
Right. Where's the place to plug it in?
Not even like bad weather, actually.
Over there.
Yes.
Yep. I'm posting that in.
Also try
Bowl about the fourth
I
dive.
mean, I was thinking it's probably worth trying your lead in that ISDN because if the lights.
We are doing.
Yeah. I'm going to try his first and then try.
Yeah. So have you got the number there?
So 01, yeah.
Yeah, 01386. Oh, that's it. I didn't see it. Was it a run out or a bowl?
I didn't see it either. What I'm going to do.
It'd be interesting to see if that works, if yours works, because if yours doesn't work, it's something in this box.
Let's just try that. So what was the number again? Sorry.
01386. Let me know when you're ready for more. 01386.
There is somebody saying we can
Sorry, 01386.
42.